All right, we are here at Big Data London, and it's day 2. I'm with Tomer, founder of Dremio. Tomer, welcome to the Ravit Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming to our booth here at Big Data London.
It's been a while, right? I think we've been connected on LinkedIn since forever now, and I've loved the growth of Dremio there. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to be here, obviously chatting with you about various things. But why not start with your introduction for our audience?
Sure, yeah, so Tomer, I'm the founder of Dremio. Dremio is an open data lakehouse,
Yeah.
and we enable companies to analyze their data in the cloud without having to get locked into like a proprietary data warehouse and
Yep.
really doing it at a fraction of the cost.
Okay, thanks for that. Also, since we were talking about this off air as well, about Apache Iceberg, can you explain what Apache Iceberg is and how it fits in Dremio's overall architecture?
Sure, yeah, I think by now a lot of people have probably heard of this open source project
For
called
sure.
Apache Iceberg. At a high level, it's an open table format, and when we think about the evolution from data lake to data lakehouse, right? It's we've gone from a world where the compute engines are kind of read only, to a world in which now you want to be able to do all the things you could do in a data warehouse, right? And that's why we call it the lake house, because it's the kind of the best of both worlds, the lake and the warehouse. In order to get all that functionality of a warehouse on a lake, you need to have the data in kind of a more advanced table format.
Yeah.
And having that be a table format that's open, meaning different engines can all interact with that and perform read and write operations on it, that's absolutely critical. Really that's what Iceberg allows you to do, right? And we've gone from data being just in a bunch of files, Parquet files, for example, to having a more kind of a richer representation of data, which is a table.
Yeah, very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And also talking about, thinking around that, I also want to learn a little about Iceberg's role. Like, how does Apache Iceberg contribute to the performance and scalability of Dremio's, data lakehouse?
Yeah, so think about it this way. Instead of having data in the lake just as a bunch of Parquet files or maybe CSV files, right, or JSON files, and instead of using kind of traditional like Hive tables, Iceberg is a more advanced and performant way to kind of represent your data.
Yeah.
So it's still stored in Parquet files, but the metadata now is all in Iceberg, and there's a lot of reasons why that's faster. It's faster because statistics are automatic. It's faster because Dremio can automatically in the background compact small files into larger files and automatically optimize the data.
Yep.
It's faster because the data is laid out in a more efficient way for object storage like S3. So there's all sorts of reasons why it's faster. And then on top of that, users don't need to understand how the data is laid out. So I mean, like the analysts, for example, they just run queries on the data. They have select queries with where clauses, and the system automatically figures out how to best prune the partitions, prune the files, and only look at the data that it needs to. So bottom line is everything's a lot faster for the users, and we're really pushing for everybody to go to Iceberg.
Okay, this is pretty interesting. And just shifting the gears a little bit around the Dremio Sonar as well. So I noticed that Dremio Sonar allows organizations, to update Apache Iceberg tables. So can you elaborate on this feature? How does that work?
Sure. Yeah, we were actually the first query engine to really have kind of first-class support for Iceberg, and what that means is that you can perform record-level mutations on the data. So you can run insert commands, you can run update commands, delete commands.
Yeah.
An example would be, say, for GDPR reasons, you need to delete some customers' records, right? They ask you to be forgotten.
Yeah.
You just run one SQL command, the delete command, and those records get deleted.
Yeah.
That used to be a lot harder when we were talking about like Hive tables and the data lake and things like that. And so, Dremio basically lets you think about your data in the data lake just like it's any simple database. It makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, pretty interesting. And do you mind also sharing a little about Dremio's Arctic?
Yeah, Dremio Arctic is a lakehouse management service. A big part of that is a catalog. So when you're building a lakehouse, you need some kind of metastore, right?
Yeah.
And historically, there were systems like Hive Metastore and then AWS Glue
Yeah.
that were that kind of catalog. But we see an opportunity to build something much more modern and much more kind of geared for this new world of table formats.
Yeah.
And so Arctic is really our solution for that. And Arctic is not just a catalog, which it is, but it also introduces these new aspects, this new paradigm to data management, which you can think of as like Git for data. So version control your data, create branches, and so the days of having to, create different copies of your data, for example, for development, staging, and production.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that anymore. You can just use branches now in Dremio, with no copying of the data. To do that.
Okay.
Another example, if you're a data scientist, you want to experiment with data, or you're a data engineer that wants to ingest and test new data, you can do all of that in a separate, isolated branch, and not have to worry about, hey, maybe I'm going to impact other users with intermediate results or intermediate state. So you do it in a separate branch, and when you're done, you throw it away or you merge it into the main branch, and it's all the stuff you get to do with GitHub on code, you can now do with data. Yeah,
very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Around, I know we've been, on the day one, we've been hearing a lot of topics. I heard you obviously chatting with Mark Sear as well from Maersk. So what are your key takeaways from Big Data London from day one? I know there are many topics, and also we would I'm pretty sure our audience would love to learn a little about Maersk use case as well, and how are they using Dremio to win in the data world.
Yeah, sure. It's been exciting the last 2 days here at Big Data London. 20,000 people at this show.
Exactly.
It's continues to grow year over year, and that really is just a testament to the fact that data, continues to be the most important thing for companies.
True.
And this year we've had the rise of LLMs and GenAI, and that it's just another workload on top of data. And the technology that we've built at Dremio and other companies here have built allows all these different workloads, right? And especially when you're thinking about kind of a lakehouse or an open data architecture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way to store your data in a way that you can use, not just our query engine, but you can use GenAI technologies. You can use a variety of other open source engines, right? Whether it's Spark or Flink, all the same data.
For sure.
And so I think it's great to see this continued kind of growth and kind of interest in data. That's what every company is interested in these days. We had a fun session yesterday on stage with Mark from Maersk. It's amazing the scale at which Maersk operates, right?
Yeah.
I've always thought about them as shipping containers. And,
exactly.
But you look at just the number of, the amount of logistics that company has to do, and they have thousands of people that use Dremio on a day-to-day basis for data analysis, right? That's how big that operation is. So it was exciting to hear him kind of talk about their use cases, everything from simple, analysis and time series analysis of what happens to the bananas that you ship in a container, and making sure they're still okay by the time they get to their destination, and looking at kind of temperature over time, to analyzing contracts, right? And using LLMs to extract structured data, structured fields from these contracts, so that you can do analysis in something like Dremio to SQL base and see how many customers do I have that are over this amount of spend, and how many instances we have of that nature. There's so many things you can do now, both structured and unstructured data analysis.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I had a brief chat with Mark as well after the your discussion with him, and he had such great things to talk about Dremio and how they are winning in their team, even having that agile team. So it was great. One last question for you, Tomer, in terms of the future developments. Everyone's kind of eager to learn more about what's next big thing coming for Dremio, and what can we expect, like the next announcements that's gonna come.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can't share the next announcements, but I will say.
Yeah.
We just, a week ago, we announced reflection recommendations. So we took Dremio's technology, which is unique and extremely innovative in the market, called reflections, which allows you to achieve sub-second query response times and not have to create Tableau extracts or Power BI imports, not have to create pre-computed tables in your lake or your warehouse.
Yeah.
We took that technology, which we call reflections, and we made it more automated. So now Dremio can analyze your workload, understand your important queries, and automatically recommend reflections that you can create and accept with a click of a button.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing for us is reflection recommendations. We continue to push the envelope on that, make reflections more and more kind of autonomous, and so that if you're a company, at the end of the day, really like, hey, we can't bring your queries, we can't bring your data, but everything else we can take care of with Dremio Cloud in particular.
Wow, I love that approach. Thanks for sharing that, Tomer. One last question for our audience, if they want to reach out to you and learn more about Dremio, if they have any questions, or I know for a fact where Dremio has many resources on the website as well, where they can go and check out and learn, but if they want to reach out to you, what's the best place?
Sure, yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more about Dremio, dremio.com, and we have a blog with lots of content and articles that we're constantly publishing. Yeah. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, of course. Also we have a number of conferences that we host. Next year we're going to host the Apache Iceberg Summit, which will be a fun conference all about Iceberg. Yeah. And that'll be fun. Iceberg's now, it's really the only vendor agnostic table format. And, we're gonna. You can already see here on the show floor all the companies that now support Iceberg that will be joining us. Snowflake and Amazon and Google and many others, and so that'll be a fun event if you're interested in Iceberg. Subsurface is a conference where you can learn all about how to implement lakehouses. That's going to happen in the next year as well. So that's another place to learn. Exciting
times ahead for sure. I had subscribed and obviously attended the Subsurface. It was amazing. So can't wait for obviously the other two conferences happening next year. Looking forward to that. Thanks again, Tomer, for chatting on the Ravit Show.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.